Welcome to Capitol View on WSIU. I'm Brian Sapp. Governor Pritzker continues his time in the national spotlight, from supporting the Texas Democratic legislators to questions about his running for president, and the candidates to continue to kick off their campaigns and gather signatures on the ballot. However, few Republicans have made that step into statewide offices. We'll talk about that. And the state fair is underway this week. Both Democrats and Republicans have their own days to take their pitch to fairgoers. We'll talk about these stories with our guests this week. Dan Petrella, he's a reporter with the Chicago Tribune, and Jason Piscia, he's the director of public affairs reporting program at the University of Illinois, Springfield. Gentlemen, welcome to the program.
Good to be here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, let's start with Texas. It's national. They've spent a week or two here in the state, and last week we saw a couple of bomb threats, lots of other politicians supporting them, the governor, even I saw the U.S. senators, Durbin and Duckworth, getting in on this. Dan, I saw you had an article last week, Friday, on this, and you've been following that. Where are things now?
Yeah, it's a very fluid situation as we're sitting here on Wednesday morning recording this. So rolling back to last Friday, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton enlisted the help of Illinois State Senator Jill Tracy from the Quincy area to file a request here in Illinois court in Adams County that Illinois enforce the civil warrant that the House Speaker down there in Texas had issued to bring the Democrats back. But since then, Governor Greg Abbott has said that he's going to end the current special session, or lawmakers have said they're going to end their current special session on Friday. Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas, has said he will continue to call more special sessions to try to deal with this redistricting issue. The question now is whether the Democrats who have been hiding out here in Illinois and in some other states like New York and California head back home and try to declare victory by putting an end to this first special session, or whether they hold fast and stay away and try to continue fending off this effort to redraw the lines ahead of next year's election to try to tip the balance in Congress by adding 5 more Republican seats in the Texas congressional delegation. So it's been very busy and active. And, even today here, Wednesday in Chicago, Texas Democrats have two different events, one with Planned Parenthood of Illinois and another with some Indiana Democrats who are coming over to sort of rally with them. So they're definitely doing their best to keep this in the spotlight as they continue to try to fight off this rare mid-decade redistricting effort by the Republicans there in Texas.
Jason, when we look at this, do you feel like they've been making an impact, or is it just an echo chamber of both sides, or just hearing what they want to hear out of this?
Yeah, it's interesting. I've stopped making predictions on what the Illinois legislature will do, and maybe I should extend that to what the Texas legislature will do. But there is a large feeling that this is largely symbolic, largely performative in a way, to just call attention to what Texas is trying to do and what the Trump administration is trying to do to protect the Republican majority in the U.S. House during the midterm elections. Again, I don't want to predict what Texas is going to do, but it seems inevitable if the governor there insists on calling a new special session every month, that eventually those Democrats are going to have to go back and do their jobs. And that makes me think it might be inevitable that this redistricting will happen, which everyone will be outraged about it, the people who are opposed to this, but it'll happen.
I saw, is it this week or next week, Ray LaHood and then the Daily, William Daley, are supposed to be talking about a commission here. One of the things I think is everybody's talking about congressional districts and gerrymandering. I don't know how many times I've heard the story about where gerrymandering came from. Dan, do you think that where do we go is, if they do this in Texas, are we going to, go scorched earth here? And what do you think is going to happen?
There's certainly the possibility. I think the most likely outcome is, California has said that they will take an attempt, the Democrats there, to suspend their independent redistricting process for a couple election cycles to combat what's going on in Texas. New York has also talked about it. A little harder to do here in Illinois. They've really wrung out just about every Democratic seat that they can get out of the map with the 14-3 split. We have now a heavily gerrymandered map in and of itself. Maybe they could squeeze one more out, but they might weaken the position of some of those, exurban and downstate Democrats in their districts if they have to try and carve off some Democrats in the outer suburbs or, Rockford area or wherever to strengthen a 15th Democratic seat here in Illinois. But, this thing that you mentioned, Bill Daley, the former Commerce Secretary and Chief of Staff and brother to Mayor Richard M. Daley, son of Richard J. Daley, and Ray LaHood, the former congressman from the Peoria area, launching a new effort to try and get an independent redistricting amendment on the Illinois ballot. This is, as a voter-driven initiative, has had sort of a doomed fate in several past attempts. And so they would really have to try and tailor it in a way that it could survive a legal challenge. The Supreme Court has thrown out previous attempts to do this. I think most recently was in 2016. So, maybe they've learned from that, but the message from Democrats across the country has been, we like the idea of independent redistricting. California Governor Gavin Newsom even said on Friday when they had a news conference with some of the Texas Democrats out there, we believe in this, we're not abandoning it, but, this is a short time, calls for extraordinary measures. And Democrats really want to see this happen statewide so that it's not, unilateral disarmament on their part. Where Democratic-led states go to independent redistricting and Republican states continue to gerrymander and squeeze every seat they possibly can out of their states and maintain the majority in Congress. So we'll see what the proposal that the folks here in Illinois put together looks like. Governor Pritzker has tried to kind of walk that fine line after a major flip-flop on that issue when he first ran for office. So I don't think it's something that we're going to see come out of the legislature. It'd be interesting to see if a citizen-led initiative can find a way to thread that legal needle to actually get it on the ballot this time.
Okay, I've been reading a bit about that, and they hope that they can at least get started, and it's in the consciousness. Talking about the governor, Jason, he's been keep drawing into the front of the camera there this weekend. He was on Meet the Press last week, Stephen Colbert. What does this say about his national aspirations and still running for governor here?
Sure. I mean, obviously, his national profile continues to grow. He was on Meet the Press over the weekend where, the reporters here in Chicago and Springfield, elsewhere in Illinois, have been asking him for literally years what his plans for a presidential run, another governor run is for, or what they are. And when we come to the presidential question, he'd always, deflect, avoid the best he could. But at Meet the Press the other day, he actually mentioned he won't rule it out. The famous saying of he won't rule it out. He can't say definitely no to it. And that, maybe the most that he's opened the door to that possibility to thus far. And, all of his other actions back that up, that he's looking very seriously at a national run, all the big national TV appearances, as you mentioned, having the Texas Democrats come to Illinois and, become part of that national story as well. So all signs are pointing to this, but, we'll see what happens.
Dan, as covering the governor, I've noticed, new to Illinois politics here for the last 7 months, he seems to keep finding a way to either, I don't know if he draws himself into these conversations or he just gets placed there. What do you think? Do you have
my
any
observation?
thought on it?
I believe it's a very concerted effort on the part of the governor and his team. They have courted this national media attention for several years now, as Jason has mentioned. They've really ramped it up in the past 6 or 7 months since President Trump took office again. But going back even a couple of years, there were profiles in the New Yorker and the New York Times, and I think maybe Vanity Fair did a big one during the DNC last year, and he was. He's done Jimmy Kimmel, and he made appearances on The Daily Show and another appearance on Colbert during the convention last year. So he definitely is, laying the groundwork, courting that national attention, trying to position himself as a voice in the party nationally, not just here in Illinois. He made that speech earlier this year to Democrats in New Hampshire, which really caught a lot of attention nationally. Don't think it's a coincidence that there happen to be New York Times reporters there covering that speech. So it definitely, it doesn't necessarily mean he's certainly going to run, but it definitely is evident that they've been laying the groundwork for a couple of years now. Also haven't mentioned yet his Think Big America, his dark money group that has gotten involved in abortion ballot measures and some actual elections in other states too over the past couple of years. So definitely, trying to make himself a voice of the strong anti-Trump wing of the party.
Is there, Jason, is there a flip side to this? He still has to run for governor. Is this a distraction yet? Is this, I haven't seen it. I still see all the press releases, him with all his state events. Has this become a distraction of running for governor again for his third term?
It could become one, and I think maybe we were going to talk about it, but the Illinois Policy Institute put out a poll recently, measuring his job approval rating, and for the first time, very small majority, he's underwater for the first time in the polls that this group has done. Given this is a sort of a conservative leading organization that commissioned the poll, it makes me think, I'm getting ready for school to start here, where I'm going to have a bunch of new journalists come into Springfield to learn about how to cover politics. And I do a little unit on how to cover polls. And it's important to remember, this is just one poll in one snapshot of time. And I think the margin of error of this poll was 3.5%, which, could make the result flip the other way as well. And the best way to determine the validity of a poll is to keep doing more polls to see how they change. But I mean, on the day that this poll was taken, a good sample size, 750 people or so, likely voters, they voted the way they did. And it might be right after they saw Pritzker talking about national issues, talking about Trump on a national TV show. And some of them are thinking, what about Illinois? We have big problems here as well. Maybe you should, concentrate on that too. The governor says he is, and every decision he makes, he, as he mentioned, I meet the press, whatever decision he makes with running for whatever, will have Illinois residents at the forefront, but we'll see where that goes.
Okay. That brings us to statewide candidates. There's been plenty of movement. Keep getting the press releases, lots of reports about all the shuffling happening statewide. But you see a lot of that from the Democrats, but not from the Republicans. Where do we stand? I think we've had a couple of gentlemen announce loosely that they're running for governor, and not much talk about the Senate. Yeah,
that's right. It's been very quiet, even now that supporters are supposed to be out on the street collecting petition signatures to get folks on the ballot next spring for the primaries. They've got until the beginning of November to get those filed. But the latest news is, Don Tracy, the former chairman of the Illinois Republican Party, is going to be entering the race for the U.S. Senate, the seat currently held by Dick Durbin. Interestingly enough, his successor as chair of the state party, Kathy Salvi, ran in the Senate race last time against Tammy Duckworth and didn't perform very well. I think she had the second widest margin of loss of all the Republican candidates who ran statewide in 2022. So it'll be interesting to see if Don Tracy can perform a little better. I'm guessing we'll be hearing this week as the political days at the fair go on, as we mentioned earlier. Maybe some more folks will jump into the race. But I think it really speaks to the state of where the party is these days in Illinois, where it's really aligned itself with Trump and alienated some of the more moderate members who used to be sort of the core of the Illinois Republican Party, folks in places like DuPage County and places like that, King County and the suburbs. So it'll be interesting to see who declares and whether there's anybody who can really give a good run to the Democrats who are running for these statewide offices.
I like reading online, my news feeds get fed. I try to follow everybody just because, you know, I got to do that. But one of the things, Jason, that I've noticed is there seems to be a split in the Republican Party. I think they're trying to figure out, with such a strong progressive base here, they don't. Some people don't want to seem to go full MAGA, and others are like, no, that's the only way to go. Do you foresee, will they coalesce around a point of view, do you think? Will we get there, Jason?
Yeah, you're right on with how the Republican Party is sort of, you know, in two pieces right now, the MAGA sect and then the more moderate sect. I think, you know, Republicans in Illinois especially are seeing the performance of Darren Bailey in the last gubernatorial election, how handily he was defeated by J.B. Pritzker. And as we know, you know, Darren Bailey, you know, sought the endorsement of Donald Trump. And, you know, MAGA Republicanism isn't going to be, at least for now, a successful recipe for winning a statewide office in Illinois. There's just too many Democrats, and I think too many moderate Republicans who are turned off by that far right side of the Republican Party. So, you know, I'm not saying a Republican will never win a statewide office in Illinois again, but it needs to be more of a moderate Republican, and they need to thread that line of, you know, standing for Republican values, but not necessarily, you know, jumping full in with the Trump side of the party. And that's hard to do because to get any widespread support from Republicans, you know, these days Republicans do have to, you know, declare some loyalty to the Trump brand. And again, that's not a recipe that's generally going to work in Illinois in the way the political world is set up here.
Yeah, I think they've got to figure out where they go. As we talked about, the state fair is going on this week. We're recording on Wednesday. Today is Democrat Day at the fair. The governor will be welcoming people to his party, and it'll be a chance for people to get to meet the candidates tomorrow. Thursday is the Republican Day. Dan, you were talking a little bit about that before we got on here. What do these days do? I mean, do they have an impact?
Yeah, they're really a chance to bring members of the party from all across the state together. And you know, there's sort of a family reunion sort of vibe sometimes. And, you know, I think that comes along with a lot of the joy, and also maybe sometimes the awkwardness and grudges and things and cliques that can happen at a big family reunion too. As you were saying, it's Wednesday morning as we're taping this right now. The Democratic County Chairs Association are having their big brunch at the convention center there in Springfield, I believe. And the keynote speaker was U.S. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, who is in Springfield on Tuesday night and previewing a little bit of what the Democrats' midterm election strategy is going to be, which is interesting, you know, really focusing on this idea of affordability and that America is too expensive, you know, food, rent, housing costs, healthcare, everything is too expensive. And Donald Trump promised he was going to fix it, and things have only gotten more expensive. So it'll be really interesting to see if Democrats do coalesce around that message, both here in Illinois and nationally in next year's election. Because I do think there were a lot of folks who switched over to Donald Trump in the 2024 election because of concerns about inflation and other things. And maybe the Democrats didn't have such a strong message on that. So that'll be interesting to see. You know, the governor will obviously address folks as well. And, you know, I think he's gearing up for his run for a third term. So I think that he's got the full, you know, support of the party behind him, because he's, you know, one of the major funders of the party these days. And then on Republican Day, I think what we'll be watching is just, you know, as I mentioned earlier, whether some more notable candidates enter some of these races for governor, for the U.S. Senate, for the other statewide offices that are open. You know, the one aside from the Senate seat that's going to be open is the comptroller's office, with Susana Mendoza announcing that she's giving it up after this term, probably going to run for mayor of Chicago in 2027, or at least heavily considering that option. So it's going to be interesting to see who the Republicans field in some of these races, and whether, you know, as we said earlier, they can find folks who can appeal more broadly to voters, and maybe if not win some of these races, at least narrow some of the margins by which they've lost these races in the last couple election cycles.
Jason, you're there in Springfield. What, as a journalist, and then also going to the fair, how do you avoid these days, or personally, and as a journalist, what do you think maybe you would have your journalists expect in talking to the candidates these days?
Yeah, as a journalist, this is, at least in Springfield, sort of the unofficial kickoff of campaign season. We start, summer's winding down. We're starting to think about fall and filing petitions to appear on the ballot. And, this is our first chance to see some of these candidates and to see them out in the wild, not wearing a suit. They're, maybe wearing a t-shirt and shorts to deal with the weather out here, and eating a corn dog and doing, human being things instead of the stilted, important person wearing a suit things. So it's good to see them in that fashion. And, politics is a, national, at least a citywide pastime here in Springfield. So there's a lot of interesting onlookers. Not all the fair goers are interested in political days. It sort of happens on a side corner of the fairgrounds, not on the main drags where people are walking to get rides and foods and see concerts and things. But yeah, this is the beginning of the playoffs, so to speak, for journalists, and we're watching what they're doing.
Okay.
And like you said, it is fun to see, every once in a while you'll see a state legislator or somebody walking around the fairgrounds after the event with their kids or whatever. And it's nice to see them, in that more human element.
Yeah. Or go down the giant slide is always the good photo op too for politicians. So
it's good. They are people, and hopefully we can remember that. And this does give us a chance to see that. We have about 3.5 minutes left. I wanted to touch on one topic. Governor Pritzker has been signing bills. He had over 400 on his desk. And yesterday, Tuesday of this week, he signed the bill, the Sonia Massey bill. It was a year ago when she was shot and killed. And one of the things the bill does is, I guess, what help require some more background checks and looking at the background of police officers. Jason, how does this fix things, or will this fix things?
Yeah, and just to set the background a little bit, it was July 2024. Sonia Massey was a Springfield woman. She called the police. She thought there was a prowler around her home. 2 sheriff's deputies came to her home. They went inside to talk to her about it. She had a pot of boiling water on her stove, and she seemed to be having a mental health episode at the time, and she was becoming distraught. The officer, Sean Grayson, apparently thought he was in danger of some sort with the boiling water in play, and went ahead and unfortunately fatally shot Sonia Massey. As the investigation of this happened, we learned more and more that the officer Grayson sort of skipped around to different police departments in our area, in the Central Illinois area, over the last few years. I think he had 4 law enforcement jobs, mostly part-time, over a 6-year period. Looking at those employment records, we saw, he had some discipline issues. He had some DUIs in there. Some sloppy police work was alleged at times as well. Senator Doris Turner, a Democrat from Springfield, introduced this bill that increased the amount of background checks that police departments have to do before they hire an officer. Apparently, going in depth and looking at internal affairs investigations and things wasn't done as thoroughly as perhaps it should have been to root out some of these things that the officer had in his past. So this bill that the governor signed on Tuesday will require police departments to do these in-depth background checks. They have to put in requests to hit the officer's previous employers, and those previous employers have to supply that information within 14 days. And it can't be redacted unless it's like personal information, like social security numbers or bank account information. But otherwise, anything about their work life is an open record and fair game for those police departments, so they can make better informed hiring decisions.
Okay, I saw, and that was a bill that was passed with bipartisan support. And then I believe I also read that Grayson's trial is scheduled to come in October. Is that going to be, we've got about 30 seconds, but is that there in Springfield then? Or was that?
I think.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
Yes.
But
Sorry, I think they've actually decided to move that to a different venue.
Okay.
Can't remember off the top of my head. I think maybe Peoria. But yeah, it's obviously it's wherever the trial is. It's going to be
Okay.
well watched, with
Yeah.
the Sonny Massey family speaking out very much in support of these bills and wanting justice for their for Sonia.
Yes. Well, gentlemen, that's it. We've reached the end of today's episode. Thank you for joining us, guys. That's it for this week's edition of Capitol View. Thanks for watching. I'm Brian Sapp, Dan Petrella, and Jason Piscia.